My name's Lindsay. I was banned for watching Newcastle United play for I think it's about 3 years by the end of it all. Yeah, about 3 years by the end of it all, basically because I don't believe in gender ideology because I don't believe trans women are women. I don't believe trans men are men. Or I believe non-binary is just gobbledygook. And yeah, so it's kind of gone from there. Really, it's a bit bonkers.
Yeah. So tell us how you first found out what was going on.
It was last October. I think it was towards the end of October, beginning of November. I had an email from the security office saying that my account had been suspended because I was under investigation with Northumbria police for a suspected hate crime. At which point I was just incredibly confused because I thought to myself, well, how do you know before I do? Because a hate crime is a very, very serious offence. And surely, if
Yeah.
if if I was under investigation for something like that, I would be the first to know, not a football club. I mean, it was just a lot of back and forth, really. Me saying to the club, "Look, I don't understand what's happening," and then I got in touch with the police at Forthanks Police Station. They said I wasn't under investigation, so I phoned the club back, and they said you are. So I phoned the police back, and they said you're not. And then I ended up making a complaint myself because I had a sneaky suspicion early on that someone was targeting me here. So I ended up making a complaint myself for harassment and things like that. I got a call a few days later. It was a Saturday from the police where they confirmed again that they couldn't see anything on my file saying I was under investigation for anything. And then I called the club again on the Monday. So that would have probably been about the 6th or 7th of November, so a few days have passed at this point, where the club then are adamant still that I am under investigation for a hate crime. And I think it was a couple of days later, I got home to a letter through my door, it's a little note that said victim support. And I phoned the number that was on there thinking it was about the complaint I'd made, obviously the harassment that I felt like I was under. And lo and behold, it was PC Lion getting in touch with me, inviting me in for an interview under caution for
From
hate
victim
speech.
support, though. Like,
Apparently, that's what
that's,
they use all the time. Apparently, that's just a generic thing that they use. And I said to them, I thought, well, that's very sneaky. It's very sneaky indeed. Because, here's me thinking it's about the complaint I've made, when actually it was inviting me in for an interview under caution. So, and then it all just kind of snowballed from there, really. It's all been a bit of a whirlwind from that point.
but the whole thing was nothing to do with the football anyway, because it didn't
No,
happen in the football stadium, did it?
no, I did nothing on the football club's grounds. I went there to go watch my team. I think anybody who knows
Yeah.
me well enough and knows when I'm watching the football, that's where my focus is entirely. Like I'm not busy looking around to see who's doing what or anything like that. My focus is solely on the team, and I go in. I'll have a couple of drinks before kick-off. I'll probably have a drink at half time. Then I'll go out and watch second half, and I don't even really hang around at the end. I'm straight up and out my seat and out of the stadium, and usually across the road in the Strawberry when the match had finished. So I knew I hadn't done anything in the ground. I don't go out of my
Yeah.
way targeting anyone. I think again, people who now have followed me for long enough on Twitter will see I don't go looking for people to go for. They think to find their way to me,
You
and I'll
certainly
just defend
do.
myself. I know I think I've just got a special skill. I don't know. But yeah, so,
Well,
I
that's what
knew,
Twitter's like, isn't it?
oh, it's a cesspit, isn't it? I think you've got to be a special
It
kind
can
of
be.
person to be able to deal with a lot of what happens on that app. But,
Hmm.
I thrive in it, so I'm quite
Yeah,
happy to keep saying my piece.
I remember the first day I met you because obviously we'd all heard what had happened to you in the networks because we're all obviously thought it was
Talk to each
terrible.
other. Everyone
Yeah.
talks to one another, though, don't they?
Uh-huh. And then we knew that I think you got invited to one of the groups, didn't you? You were in there. And then I found out that you were quite close to me. So I says, oh, well, I'll come and see you. And I came into the cafe and obviously you didn't know what I looked like.
Mhm.
And when I said your name, you froze because that was the day that it all came out, wasn't it?
Yes, I
So how
think
did you handle that?
it's something I'm still getting used to. To be fair, people knowing. who I am. You know, I'm having to, people keep telling me to be careful, but I also can't not be myself, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not,
Well, what does
it's,
that mean? Be careful.
if you care, I think it's be careful what I'm saying, be careful what I'm doing, you know? Someone told me I had to stop clapping like a seal when I got really excited. And
Why is that against the law?
I don't know. But for me, I get excited when I clap, you know? So,
I do that sometimes as well.
yeah, I think more people probably do it than I want to admit. But the whole thing's been quite bizarre, to be honest. It's when people know who I am when I don't know who they are, you know, and I never quite really know how to respond to it. I think most of the time I just go, oh hiya, I'll give you a cuddle because I don't know what else
You
to
like
do.
hugging people?
Yes, I am a cuddly person, so
Yeah. It is a little bit like that for me, but not randomly. It tends to
mhm.
be at Let Women Speak, like people know who I am now. How I stood in the election.
Well, when we were at Let Women Speak,
Morpeth.
obviously when we were up in Morpeth, obviously there was a few people knew who I was when I turned up and I said my hellos and whatever. But then you can feel people looking at you, being like, I recognize her. And then obviously when I
Where
got
do
up
I
and
know her from?
yeah, I recognize her. She looks familiar. And then obviously I got up and I didn't speak for long because I didn't really know what to say. I only spoke because everybody kept going, can I speak? I was like, "Aye." And then as soon as it was done, obviously everybody who'd been looking at me thinking they could see, they recognized my face. That was it. They were like, oh, that's you. That's where I know you're from. And it was quite bizarre, like, you know, at the end of the event and just everybody coming up to me and, you know,
Hmm.
just the praise and everything like that. Because it doesn't feel like you're doing anything extraordinary, if that makes sense. You know, you're just
You're just
basically,
defending yourself.
I'm speaking common sense and I'm standing my ground. Like, I've never been the kind of person to allow people to walk all over me. And if I know I've not done it, if I know I've done something wrong, I'll apologize. But if I know I've not done anything wrong, then I
Hmm.
can be the most stubborn individual you will ever come across. You know, I'm a nightmare. If I know I'm right, I won't stop until I've proven that I am right. And then I
Yeah.
can go, told you so.
So the things that you've been, were you actually arrested? What actually happened
That
after you
was,
got that card through?
I was invited in for an interview with the caution. A phone PC line. He didn't really tell me any of what it was about on the phone at that point. That was a Wednesday night. The Wednesday night I got home, so maybe about the 8th, 9th of November, something like that. And then I pretty much I was sick to my stomach, had a sleepless night because I've never been in trouble, you know, so I
Hmm.
had no idea what to expect, what was coming. And then it wasn't until the next day when I reached out to a couple of gender critical people on my Twitter who put me in touch with Harry Miller, a fair cop, and got Graham Linehan on board with it. And then from the moment I think Graham phoned Harry and let Harry know about me.
Yeah.
And then I'd been given Harry's number as well, so I'd left a voicemail. I think I was sobbing through the best part of it, crying. And then yeah, it just kind of from that moment, like Harry went through all my Twitter. I told him obviously I deleted some things because I was so scared. Like, and I remember he said to me, "What is the worst thing you think you've ever said online about, you know, the trans side of things?" And I said, I think the worst thing I would say I've said, because I don't target people, I said I've called their operation, their hole, I call it a rock pocket.
Everyone calls it that though.
I know, well, that was it. But at the time, obviously, I was so innocent. And now it wouldn't faze me a little bit. But that was, to me, that was the worst thing I'd ever said, was calling it a rock pocket. And Harry
But
went,
you feel guilty, don't you, when you
yeah,
don't know what it is and
yeah.
someone says you've done something, you're like, oh, well, what is it that I could have said? What?
And then,
Yeah.
like, my partner at the time, she turned around and said, well, you must have done something, you know, and it's when you get that side of it, you know, and then you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, have I said or done anything? But in actuality, I hadn't said anything other than, you know, biological truths. And it was the worst bit of it is it was all just my opinions. So I wasn't targeting people. I think I'd said something
Yeah,
about
it wasn't
mermaid.
aimed at anybody in
Yeah.
particular.
I called mermaids groomers,
Well,
you know,
yeah.
Yeah, I called mermaids groomers, said, just your daily reminder, trans women are men. Silly things like that, just general common talking about men and women's sports, saying how because they've got a mental disorder, mental illness, like I don't, I've got a diagnosed mental disorder myself, so it's not like it's anything, it's not taboo to talk about, but because they've got a
Yeah.
mental disorder, all the rest of the women who've worked their entire lives to get to where they are in sport need to step aside because this gentleman has a mental disorder that makes him believe he's a woman, and we should all just accept it. It's just
Well, they
not.
just need to train harder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was things like that generally, and nothing was ever aimed at anybody. I think that's been proven as time's gone by. But I think the worst was yet to come with it all, really, because obviously I spoke to Harry. He phoned PC Lion and said to him, she's not coming in for an interview tonight. This was on the Thursday. And he sent them like loads of documents over about the Miller ruling when he took the College of Police to the High Court and won and sued the Chief Constable of Homicide Police successfully. And yeah, so there was that much documents there as well. It should have taken them hours and hours and hours to get through it all. But within a couple of hours, they were knocking on my door, basically threatening with me with arrest. They said, if you don't come in, we've got grounds to arrest you. You know, they lied to me and they said things like, we put you under caution for your own protection. And I've sitting there thinking, it's not for my protection though, because you literally say anything you've said can and will be used against you in the court of law. Like that's not my protection. You just,
No.
it's, but yeah. And they told me that Harry was wrong and that he'd lied to me and that he wasn't following the law and they were following the law. I wish I'd recorded that at that point, but obviously I was just so shocked that they'd come to my door because Harry phoned me and said, "Relax, mate, chill out. It's all dealt with for now." They're not, and then a couple of
Mhm.
hours later, they're at
And
my
then they
front
turned
door.
up.
And then obviously that caused an argument with my partner.
It was?
Yeah, a massive row. And then I agreed to go in for interview on the Friday night after work. So I even missed going to my Friday night pubs and everything. I
Never.
know. Hell hath no fury, Kelly. You know me and my Friday night pub. So I skipped all that and I went in and Harry had actually advised me to, because they don't, when you go in for an interview under caution, when you're invited in, they don't search you. They don't do anything like that.
Yeah.
So I basically, just before we went in, I went on and I set my phone to record. And then I had this hat on when I went in. I live in Newcastle. And I took my hat off. I set my phone on the cable, like face down, so they couldn't see I was recording anything. I took my hat off and I just sat my hat on top of my phone and
Right.
recorded the entire interview. And as soon as I
Mhm.
left, I just sent it straight to Harry Miller. And then that was when it
Yeah.
really blew up. That was when it was all over Twitter, when he'd sat and typed it all out, all of the questions, and put it on Twitter, and that was just when it got silly. It was at that point I realized this is going to be quite big, to the point where Elon Musk commented saying, "Is this true?" And when you've got Elon Musk commenting on something involved with you, it's very bizarre. Pretty
Yeah.
bizarre.
So you got loads of attention then at that point.
Yeah, but I stayed anonymous at that point as well. So
Right, okay.
while there was a few idiots from within the Newcastle fan base who really don't like me, they had an idea it was me because I'd locked my account
Mhm.
down and things like that. Obviously, nobody outside of that would have had any clue who I am. So yeah, it was, and I only stayed anonymous because of the arguments it was causing at home. Because it
Right.
was, well, why can't you just leave it? And I'm like, well, why should I?
Mhm.
Why should I leave it? Why can't I defend myself? Why does it have to be you? Well, I don't know. I didn't ask for this to happen. I didn't ask for any of this to happen, but here I am, stuck in the middle of it all, you know,
Yeah.
just for saying basic common sense, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, well, it's biological reality.
Mhm.
It's unbelievable what's happening to women because they're speaking out
Yeah.
about biological reality. Really
It's
bad. So yes, I think when I met you then it was when it hit the papers, wasn't it? And you kind of your name
yeah.
came out at that point, I think.
Yeah, well,
Is
for
that
when,
right? Yeah.
because I had the Free Speech Union involved, and obviously the Free Speech Union wanted me to go on the Nigel Farage show and all of this. So it was kind of a given that my name was going to come out within all of
Hmm.
this, you know. And it was when I think it broke in the Telegraph. So people have been waiting
Hmm.
and waiting and waiting. And then the Free Speech Union dropped the video they did with me. And then the Telegraph obviously dropped their story as well. And it was a whirlwind. I think the next couple of weeks after that was 2, 3 weeks, was just very surreal. It was, watching my follow count go skyrocketing, seeing people make gifs about things I've said as if like, all I said was sex is real. And then, like Fred Wallace, whatever his bloody name is, and India Willoughby, that blow. He was commenting stuff, and he blocked me actually, which was quite funny. But I do take a lot of happiness in knowing that I'd already blocked him before he blocked me. So there's a bit of
Yeah.
satisfaction in there. Because I don't
He's
want to
blocked me
see.
as well. India
Exactly.
Willoughby, I had a bit of a spat with him online because he got the Equality Act wrong and I explained what it was. And he
Yeah.
blocked me for it.
Well, there's loads of people that do, and do you know what? I only know now the way that the law works. So again, when I'm talking to Newcastle United, we're talking about protected characteristics, and I'd say to them, look, I've got protected characteristics. I'm a
Yeah.
lesbian woman, and they go,
Yeah.
my thing's
With a
protected, and they go,
disability.
and then they say, yeah, and they turn around and go, so is gender. And at the time, I couldn't answer
No, it
that.
isn't.
Yeah, but now I know that gender's not. It's gender reassignment,
Yeah.
but not gender. You just can't just protect people because of gender. It's wrong.
Because what does it even mean?
Exactly. What
Like, I
is it?
think there was one day I tried to explain it and I was like, actually, I don't know.
Give up.
Just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So, there was a couple of weeks of all that whirlwind, really. I had to go down to London, do a few bits and pieces. And obviously, as well as dealing with all of the stuff with the football club, with the Free Speech Union, I'm also meeting up with Harry Miller and a different set of lawyers about what the police did to me as well. So
Okay.
I'm kind of balancing, spinning loads of different plates all at once while I'm down in London for that. I think I was down there for about 24, 48 hours before I came back up. And it was
So is
just,
that two legal cases then? Three.
three.
Thought you were swearing at me there.
No. Well, I'll wait till I see you in person to give you the finger.
So
I know,
lovely.
I know. Well, I know
So
where you
what are
live
the
as
three
well.
cases then? Are you able to say what they are?
Yeah, so obviously I've got two cases going against Newcastle United. The one we're closest to bringing to court at the moment is the discrimination claim, obviously for doing what they did to me, because the Newcastle United, obviously, I believe, in through subject access requests, they got the Premier League to delve into my life to try and find dirt on me through a secret, evil, awful report that was so invasive. And it's worth stressing as well that the Premier League didn't find any evidence at that time, at any time, of me actually abusing anyone. It actually says in the report that I'm the victim of online abuse, like to the point where
Mm-hmm.
there's images where someone's photoshopped my face onto a woman being hanged. I'm being called homophobic slurs, everything. And it's something I'll never bite.
Homophobic when you're a lesbian.
Yeah, but I'll be called like, I get called a dyke, a rug muncher, all these other bits of things that just are literally water off a duck's back. I'm 35-year-old. I've heard them
You've heard
all.
it all before.
I've heard it all multiple times. It really doesn't bother me anymore. But, I actually tend to be quite impressed if someone could call me a name that I've never been called before. I tend to go, oh, well done. So, you had all of that, and it's all stuff that Newcastle United just ignored. They just
Uh-huh.
ignored the fact that I was the victim of abuse, and they just carried on pushing this narrative to get me out of that stadium.
And it was like pictures of you walking your dog and things like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, my dog
That's so invasive.
I'd lost my dog about 3 weeks before this as well, which
So that
was
was
awful.
upsetting for you as well.
It was kind of, I think I was still a bit numb. Like, obviously, I was still grieving. I was probably still in a bit of shock about losing Chester. Not that it was a shock because he was 16, but it was having to do it all. And then And then all of a sudden, all of this happens, and it kind of took that away. Like, I didn't even have time to think about what I'd been through with Chester or grieving. I don't think it was until around the January, February time when I was having to do all the media and everyone kept bringing it up that it really started to hit me. Like, I think, everyone just found out, and I took pictures of where you walk your dog, and I'm thinking the whole time, yeah, but my dog's dead now. Like, this is every time, and that's the thing that people kept bringing up, and every time they did, like, a little piece of me just broke every single time because I didn't
Sorry,
have
I've
him
just
anymore.
brought it up again as well.
No, it's okay. I've got him. I've got him here as well. I've got his box. I've got him. Or have
Oh.
he sleeps above me. But so that's the thing. Like, that people really, you don't realize until you sit and talk to me. I'd already been going through bits and pieces before this, and then they're sitting. I mean, I didn't even realize they'd been doing that report on me until a few weeks later when I got the subject access request back. I was more interested in the emails and who'd been saying what. It was only when I went back and looked and I saw this Premier League report, clicked into it, and I just saw target profile Linzi Smith. And I just saw that the lengths they'd gone to look into my life, and I couldn't believe it, to be honest. So when it comes to the football club, Newcastle United, obviously the discrimination claim, we are quite close. I think actually today's the 7th of November. Today's the deadline for them to get the defence into the court. So there's a very good chance I'll be hearing something in the next few days, at least with what their response is to the claim, because we have filed everything. And then we're also going to be looking to take them to court for a breach of GDPR, my personal sensitive data, for the way they used my information, not just handing it over to the Premier League and having them do what they did to me, but also how they handed all of my information over to the police as well and pushed for this to happen. They claim they didn't do it, but I know for a fact that they did because, I've sat and
You've
I've
got
spoken to the
evidence.
police. I've got evidence, and I've also sat and had meetings with the police, and I know for a fine fact the police have confirmed to me that the club are the ones that initiated this. So, so they can lie all they want, keep lying all they want, but the truth will come out in the end, that's fine. And then we're also looking to sue the Premier League for a breach of GDPR for obviously doing what they did with my data, given that there was no lawful reason to be doing it. I hadn't done anything in the grounds. That profile, that target profile thing the Premier League do, that's for people, that's to find people who, misbehave badly in the grounds, people who, maybe been racist to staffs or whatever, and things like that. It's used to track people in that way. It's not supposed to be used to look into someone's life who posts some things that you politically don't agree with. That's not what it's
Yeah.
there for,
No.
So there's that. And then with Harry Miller, I'm taking the Chief Constable of Northumbria Police to the High Court for judicial review. We plan to do a judicial review over two-tier policing, over having, the politics in policing without fear or favour, and how they're letting people down, how
Yeah.
individuals like myself as a lesbian woman, I don't feel like who doesn't believe in gender ideology. I think it's utter nonsense. And how I can trust that the police will help me the same way that they, do with what they did to me. And they've proven that they won't, because they've been given so much evidence of the abuse I've been given, and they haven't gone anywhere near the lengths that they went to get any of the people that we've shown have done what they've done to me. They haven't even investigated what happened to me, which is targeted abuse. Yet I can post a few opinions that people don't like, and I'm suddenly pulled in for questioning under caution. And I'm asked things like, do you have a lawful reason for having hashtag LGB in your bio? Do you see that, how
What?
that, yeah, that was yeah. Do you have a lawful
A
reason?
lawful reason?
A lawful
You need a
reason for
lawful
having,
reason.
according to them, you do. And I just I just gave her no comment interview the whole time.
I
There
don't
was
even
no
know what that
comments.
means.
No.
Like, you have to seek legal advice before you put a hashtag in your bio. I've never heard
Hashtag
them. So
LGB.
ridiculous.
Yeah. There's so many of them, Kelly. I'll have to let you sit and listen to the recording sometime. Yeah. You're going to have to come to the pub with me. or listen to it over a beer.
Oh,
But yeah, so, the whole thing's been pretty bonkers. And I also know what a fortunate position I'm in, I think, because not everybody's going to find themselves stumbling into the knowledge of people like Harry Miller or Graham Linehan, like to find myself surrounded by those kinds of people. Toby Young of the Free Speech Union is,
it's the
you
power
know,
of Twitter, really, isn't
mhm.
it? It
Yeah,
it
it
has
is.
its downsides, but you can connect with anyone on there,
Mhm. Yeah, like phenomenal people. Like,
and people
y-
will point you in the right direction as well.
yeah, I still can't believe that Glyn is just a message away from me, and he always replies. He's an absolute diamond. It still blows my mind that, because I loved Father Ted when I was a band. Me and my
Did
brother,
you? You
me and
see,
my
I,
brother
I
loved
went
it.
to Let Women Speak. I went to Let Women Speak in Glasgow, and I met him. I didn't know who he was. And I was going, but and
You've
then
told me
everyone was
that
like, "Go and
before.
get your photo taken." I was going, but I don't know who
Who,
he is. And this woman who was with him was like, "Oh, well, he wrote Father Ted," and I was like, "Oh, right, that's nice." Like, I vaguely remember Father
you were
Ted,
like,
but and
Father
obviously
Ted?
now I know who he is.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a comic. Do you know what? He's just a comedic genius. I've never known anyone
Yeah,
to be able to write the way he does when it comes to comedy. Phenomenal. Just so silly. I love silly comedy, and Graham does it so well. He does silly comedy
and he's
so well.
such a gentle man, isn't he? He's
Yes.
just so lovely,
Yeah.
and the way he's been targeted is just
It's awful.
awful.
All for the sake
Uh-huh.
of an ideology, because it's so fragile. Can you
Yeah.
imagine any of us reacting that way to anybody? Like, people turn around to me and they'll go, "Prove you're a woman or I'll call you a man." I'm like, "Do it then, I don't care." Like,
Like, why should I
like,
prove it? I don't
if
need
you,
to.
yeah, if you want to call me a bloke, call me a bloke. I don't really care. Call me sir if you want. Do what you want. But then you do that on the other side and it's literal violence. Like, make it make sense.
It doesn't make any sense, does
No,
it?
no. If you're that touchy about something, there's a chance that the foundation that you're basing all of this on is quite fragile in itself. If your
Definitely.
ideology is so fragile that you need to take a week off work because someone called you sir, think it's time to reflect.
Yeah.
Call
Well,
the
it doesn't
police.
make any sense, does it?
No,
And yet, all through, obviously when I went through that election campaign and I had
yeah, you
women
were
saying, "Well,
brilliant.
you do know that not everyone's going to agree with you, don't you?" And I was like, "Really?
Duh.
Like, state the obvious."
I love when you were running that I was in a leaflet off with someone outside my shop, wasn't I? I kept sticking one of your leaflets up on a lamppost outside my shop. And then I'd see it had been ripped down, so I'd go out and stick another one. And it went on all the way up until the election day, and then I think they gave up. There was one day it got ripped down 6 times, and I went out and put it straight
6.
back out there. Yeah, 6 times it was ripped down, and I just every time I thought, you're gonna get bored of this before I get bored of this.
Yeah, I mean, you were literally there anyway, weren't you?
Oh, I
But
was
yeah,
there
it
all
was
day,
really
and
good
anyways,
because I kind of used your shop as a
a
as
little
a
hub,
uh, uh,
the
election
HQ.
HQ. It was really good. I met people there all the time. And
Turf
obviously people
HQ.
could pick the leaflets up there, and
Mhm.
yeah, it was really handy to be able to have somewhere that people could meet and like get more leaflets and stuff like that. It was really
But
good.
just also to know that you can sit and have the conversations, and
Yeah,
that you're okay to do it in there, because it's
definitely.
it's not like I don't get transsexual people coming and using the cafe, and I do, and
Yeah.
it really is it makes no difference, if
No,
someone's coming in to use
you're not going
the
to
use
treat
the shop,
someone
they're coming in.
differently because of
No, no.
that.
Well, I don't
It's
really care. It's just I've got a hard line on certain things. Live as you want to live. Do what you want to do. I think I say it all the time. You could identify as a swing bin lid for all I care. But I've got a hard line on certain areas, and I'm not going to shift on it. It doesn't mean that I,
mhm.
I devalue you in any way as a person. But as soon as your rights start eroding the rights of women, that's when I've got a problem.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of us are like that, but
Mhm.
they don't get it. So
No.
they think that we are going to be horrible to them. I remember yeah, it was Glasgow as well. We went to, like, after we Let Women Speak, we went to the pub afterwards, and there was a group of young people sitting on the at the table, and there was nowhere to sit, but they were leaving. And as they left, they started slamming things about and having, and we're like, and they were going, and you hate us. And we're like, no, we don't. You hate us. It's the other way around. We
Yeah.
haven't got a problem with you. They didn't
Don't
get
really
it.
care.
And the staff were rude as well.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
It's the thing, but I think there's so much hysteria around it as well. You can't actually have a reasonable conversation with a lot of them.
No,
You can sit
no.
there and sit there and you can put some perfectly valid, reasonable points across, and they'll still turn around and cry bigot, fold,
Uh-huh.
and whatever else. I mean, I love when people turn around and go, "You do realize you're regurgitating the homophobic rhetoric when gay people are fighting for their rights," and I'm like, it's nothing to do with that. They're totally irrelevant. Like, my sexuality is my sexuality. It's who I'm attracted to. Yours is an identity that you can decide to change, depending on which way the wind blows.
Uh-huh.
They're not the same at all. That the identity politics have no place being attached to the LGBT. They just don't. Make your own
No.
community, do what you want to do, live as you want to live. But don't come attaching yourselves to us because it's nothing to do with us. And my argument with people always is now, when they go, "You're a lesbian, you should know better." And I turn around and say, "Listen, why should I identify with that whole stupid acronym? Why should I sit and accept all of that when the only part that represents me is the LGB? Why should I identify with something that doesn't represent me as a lesbian woman? Why should I be forced to do that?"
Well, lesbians can't meet as
I
well.
know.
That really, like, I think I was watching, I think it was like one of the auditors, they go around and make videos for YouTube, and they like check up on the police to make sure the police are doing stuff right. And they happened to come across a protest in London outside this building where a group of lesbians were trying to have a meeting. And the trans activists were like drowning them out, banging on the doors and windows and stuff like that. And they were behaving really badly.
Yeah. And that's the
So the
thing.
lesbians are and you just got to look at what's happened in Australia as well with
Yes, it's mental.
Roxanne Tickle, who's a man.
That bloke. Mind you, one of my favorite moments of that was I got a text from, it was when it was all going on. I think the court case and stuff was going on, or it was coming up to it. I'm not too sure. But I got a text from Louise Distress, and I just got a text that said, "I've been doing some mass misgendering today." And I just went on Twitter and I saw she just posted, "Roxy Tickle is a man, pass it on." People put it was up into the millions, I'm sure it was. Really absolutely buckled. Like, Louisa's mass misgendering was probably one of my highlights of all of that, if I'm not funny. Roxy
Well,
Tickle.
what's happened to her is absolutely awful as well. Just
I know. I
really
know.
awful,
I texted
terrible.
her earlier, actually. She seems to be, she's had a bit of time away. So she's getting her head
Yeah, I
around
saw
everything,
that.
because I think she had to decompress. She really had to. Like, she's been through so much in the last year or so. I talked to her quite a bit about it all. And I think she just had to take some time away, which is what I said which would also be best for her to do.
Mhm.
Because when you're stuck in it, it's the same with me. When you're smack bang in it, you don't actually realize the toll it's taken on you.
Yeah, it's only
And
after.
yeah, it's only after the fact. And I mean, there's stuff about me that I haven't spoken about publicly. I think you know better than anyone else the toll that this has taken on my life, things that I haven't shared with
Definitely.
people, and what it has done to my life.
Uh,
And I won't share it because I don't want sympathy. I don't, and I also don't want
Well,
my
it's
my
private.
it is private, and I also don't want my haters to sit and thrive on what it's cost me, as a person
Mhm.
individually. When I'm ready to share, I will share. But I think you know better than most just how much this fight has taken from my life and how much it's
Mhm.
turned my life upside down. So, I think I was saying the other day, the only thing more dangerous than a stubborn woman like me is a stubborn woman like me with nothing else left to lose, and
Mm.
I haven't now. So bring it on.
Well, they're not going to bring you down though, are they? And,
Oh no,
I've had stuff happen in my life that's really affected me, but well, they say it makes you stronger, doesn't it? And in
yeah,
a way, it takes something away from you, but it also makes you more resilient
yeah,
and able, when you've been through something that takes you to rock bottom, you know that you can handle it and you come through
mhm,
it and you you know that you can make it right again. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? You
yeah.
can get through it and you can rebuild your life and you can make sure that they don't get away with it as well. And not
It's
always, but you can because you've got
yes.
these legal processes.
Yeah, like I say, I've landed on my feet when it comes to all of the people I have around me. You know, the
Hmm.
the likes of Harry Miller and Graham Linehan and Toby Young of the Free Speech Union and everyone in like, Levin Solicitors and Sinclair's Law, all the people that are working closely and tirelessly with me. I'm under no illusion. I'm very fortunate because there'll be many more people who have had something like this happen to them where they didn't suddenly find themselves with the attention like what I had. So it kind of makes me all the more determined to do a good job with it, I suppose.
Do you think it's because it, like, so far, like women like Louise and,
Mhm.
Birdie Rose and women who've really been targeted, do you think it was the time that it happened? Do you think things are getting better in terms of being able to speak?
I think, yeah, I think while they're still trying to do the silencing tactic and they're trying with this hysteria, there's more and more people waking up and realizing that it is just hysteria. I grew up at a time no one held my hand when I was growing up and told me everything was going to be all right, and no one was kind to me when I was growing up, and everything that we're expected to bend over and do for them, it's not realistic. It's not how
No.
life is. And if you're going to walk around your whole life wanting to be wrapped in cotton wool, then unfortunately life has a way of constantly kicking you.
Hmm.
That is just how life is. You are gonna, one minute you're gonna feel like your life's perfect, and then all of a sudden something's gonna happen and you're gonna feel like it's upside down. If you don't get the resilience throughout your life in dealing with these situations, then when your bubble does burst and when really does hit the fan, you're not gonna know how to cope with it. You're not gonna
No.
be equipped to, you've got to be able to take a kicking in this world. You really, really do.
I think it's possibly the style of parenting that we've got. Like, you can't, like, kids aren't allowed to go off and explore anymore. When I was
Mm.
little, I used to go off on my bike and,
Oh, we
we
did.
lived in Blythe and our house backed onto the Bella Heap. Now, the Bella Heap was like waste off the coal mines, I think. So there
Mhm.
was this thing called the Yellow Babby. So it was like a sulphur river. And
Oh,
we used to go and
lovely.
play, and apparently there was glue sniffers and all sorts. And we used to go and play on this hill when I was like, I must have been
Sh-
under
We
six. You know
we
what I
don't
mean?
be
But
like
you
that.
wouldn't let
Yeah.
your kids do that now.
No, no. I think it's a very
I don't know if
a
that was
very
just
different
rumours
world.
about
Yeah,
glue sniffers and stuff.
like
It's
like
like, don't
ghost
go over there, there's
stories.
glue sniffers.
It'd be like when you
But you
go
know what I
play
mean?
you go play in a
We
certain
went off on
area.
our bikes, but kids aren't able to do that anymore. They're like taken everywhere to activities. And, when I was little, I used to have to do what my parents wanted to do and just sit and be bored. Whereas
Yeah.
now parents are expected to do what the kids want. And it's just, everything's turned on its head.
Or like we'd get taken to a restaurant, and if we were taking out the food, we had to sit there, and that was it. You weren't allowed to move. You weren't allowed to
Uh-huh.
get out your seat. No running around, nothing like that. No whinging. If you whinged, that was it. You weren't going to get stuck on the backside there. But I tell you now, when you got in the house, there'd be a slipper coming across your backside or something. But it was kind of that. Whereas now, you go out and you just see everyone's on their screens. Kids are sitting with their iPads, sitting at the table, not even eating their dinner.
Yeah.
While the mum and
Mhm.
dad, there's parents will just hand their kids their iPads to keep their kids quiet so they can sit and get a little bit drunk or whatever.
I
I mean,
actually went to a pub with my friend, was it last week or the week before, and was sat at this table with it had a screen at the end. And I was like, oh, can we turn it off? Because like cartoons, and we
yeah.
couldn't. We couldn't find an off button, so we got the menus and we covered this screen up with the menus so that we didn't have to look at these cartoons. It was just like,
Oh,
why?
was that like a thing? I remember when I used to work for Green King, I used to do their investments. I did Hungry Horses.
It was a
And I
hungry
seem to,
horse.
yeah, yeah, there you go. I remember they had booths and they'd put booths in with a little
Yeah.
television in the booth. Yeah, yeah, no, they're a
Hmm.
nightmare. Especially if
Like,
one of them
yeah.
stops working and then the parents treat you like you've just ruined their birthday or the Christmas or whatever it is. I've ruined loads of birthdays me over the years.
What? Because it stopped working. Oh my
Oh, all
God.
all sorts of. If you work in hospitality, I can guarantee you're ruining birthdays, Christmases, bar mitzvahs, whatever else. There's always a special occasion. If you do something wrong, you've ruined something. So,
Oh, that's insane.
I don't know,
Anyway,
bite your tongue.
so you've got all these legal things going on and stuff like that. Have you got what's keeping you going? How are you keeping positive through all this?
I think it's just the way I am, to be honest with you, Kelly. I mean, it doesn't take me long to bounce back from things. I don't think. Like, again, you know what I've been through, and there was a bit when you came in and you saw me and you were like, you're not your normal hurricane self, and I what it was like. It was almost like a flame had been dimmed in me for a bit. But I'm not someone to dwell on things, because the longer I dwell on something, the only person I'm hurting when I do that is myself,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot for me to manage myself. I'm diagnosed borderline personality disorder. So it takes a lot of energy every single day for me to, the hyperactivity in me, which everybody knows about, the volume of my voice, how loud I can get without realizing it, because it gets loud in my own head. And then just the way my mood can flip, it can be like a roller coaster for me. So the longer I dwell on something, the worse I'm making it for myself, because it's only myself I'm harming. So I kind of
Hmm.
have to just put it away, try
Yeah.
and try and just get past
That
it. I
is
think
you. You're like
the
happy and like your cafe. It's just like everybody knows each other.
yeah,
Everyone talks to each other,
mhm,
and you just make it a community.
yeah. I think I've
And
been
so
told
that day
before.
when I came in and you were miserable, I was like, oh my God, what's happened? Yeah, but I'm glad it didn't last too long.
It didn't last long at all. I think your Ian came in a few days later, didn't he? And you
Yeah.
messaged me and said, Ian said you're looking more like your hurricane self. Uh, I was like, yeah, I'm feeling a bit better from. But it is.
Yeah.
It's one of them things. I can either sit and dwell on it, or I can just push through it really, and just allow myself to not feel,
Hmm.
the negative of it. Because, like I say, the only thing I'm doing is making my day harder, and I'm making my life harder if the longer I dwell on things. So I'll have my ups and my downs, but ultimately, I'm a happy-go-lucky, bubbly person. So I don't really
You
want to let
are.
idiots stop me from being that person. I'm a bit crazy, bit mental, you know. It's why everyone gets so surprised when I sit and I'll talk and I come out with like, and they go, "You're a really good speaker." I wouldn't, speakers, they're so used to me just being, that when they see the serious side of me come out, sometimes they're quite shocked. It's like they don't think I've got it in me. I just thought, I'm like, well, I'm a woman of many talents, I'm full of surprises. Uh-huh.
Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about today?
Oh, really? No, I mean, obviously I've got on my Twitter and things like that. If people want to go, and if you've only just learned about my story, by all means go onto my X page. My handle's at NUFC. If you don't have X or anything like that, then take a look on the Free Speech Union. They cover my case quite extensively on there. You can find links to my crowdfunder, which gives you a good detailed description of everything I went through when it comes to the police and what they did, what the club and the Premier League did, even to the point of the 3 tweets that got me banned for 3 years. So it's 3 they ended up settling on in the end. So we're challenging each of them. But
So
yeah,
did they say there was more tweets at first?
oh my God, there was loads. There was loads because they sent them all to the police. But obviously, when they sent it to the police and then the police said no further action because no crime had been committed, they didn't even have a right to pull me in for interview. And this is what made Harry so mad. When Harry was listening to the recording, he phoned me and he was spitting angry. I mean, like, you don't want to be dealing with Harry when he's angry. He wasn't angry at me, but he was just furious that they'd done it to me. And he said, I was sitting and I was waiting and I was listening, thinking something bad surely is going to come up in a minute. And then the interview ended. And he said, I have never felt such rage in all of my life. He said, because it's not even in the foothills of malicious communications. He said, there's no victim because they don't specify a victim. They keep using the term, do you think anyone could be offended by this? Do you see how this could cause someone alarm or distress? So there wasn't even a victim. It was just literally someone has taken a disliking to me. They don't like, they didn't like the fact that, because even before all of this, I got quite a lot of engagement on my Twitter, on my ex, and they didn't like that. So it was almost like, she gets all this engagement and we need to shut her up. And while we're at it, and the thing is as well, they can't get me for my job because I'm self-employed. They can't upset me with name calling because I really don't care. But they tried
I think
everything.
we've all been called all sorts now,
Oh,
haven't we?
yeah. I tell you what, you grow up
You
a woman
Nazi
in this
far-right
world.
bigot.
You grow up a woman in this world, and honestly, by the time, if you hit 30-year-old and you haven't been called every name under the sun, you're clearly doing something wrong, But you just become so desensitized to it. So they were doing everything they could. They'd attack my sexuality. They'd attack me saying I look like a bloke. They'd attack my weight. Everything they could think of. But I don't care, Kelly.
The police did that.
No, the individuals online.
I was
Police
going to
didn't
say,
do it.
right.
Individuals
okay, sorry.
online before all of this started, this had been going on, been receiving abuse for about a year or so before any of this even happened. So, and they've been trying to almost break me down and make me go away for a long time. But again, you can't get to me in that way. You really, really can't. Like,
So it's
I'm
those
immune to it.
individuals who were calling your names who then reported you then?
Yeah, well, I know who did it because they were stupid enough to
Yeah.
leave their profile picture of one of the images that they sent in. So I know who did it. They know I know who did it. So, and he is mentioned in not only the discrimination claim against Newcastle United, but he gets a lovely mention in the court action letter from the High Court to the police as well. So you can guarantee he has not heard the last of me. I might be quiet at the minute, but that is because I want to do things right. But
Yeah.
his day of reckoning is going to come. And he knows I know who he is now. He knows I'm not going to out him because I'm not like that. I've been on the receiving end of those pylons, and as much as he probably would deserve it for being such a sneaky little git, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy because I know I can take it. I'm robust enough to take it, but not everybody else is. And given he's part of the alphabet spaghetti squad, I'm going to say he's not got a very thick skin and he's not really capable of taking a lot of criticism. Not the same way that I am.
Well, that's very good of you.
Wow.
So if you send me the link for your crowdfunder, I'll put it in the thing so it's underneath the podcast when I put it out. How is your crowdfunder going? I couldn't think of the word crowdfunder there.
I think, do you know what it is? I remember when I was told about how much money I was going to have to raise to do this, and I think I cried. I remember I got off the phone and I was at work. I'd had, because obviously I do 6 days a week at work, which is another good way of keeping myself distracted because I'm always working and busy. But I got off the call and I had to go out in the backyard and I just cried for about 10 minutes because I thought, how on earth am I going to raise £50,000? Like, that is a ridiculous amount of money. And in all honesty, like, we're nearly hit 33,000 at the minute, and
Yeah.
there's still a long way to go. When we hit the next stage, when we get the response from the club, they've got their defence in, there'll probably be another push of it because there'll probably be another story and things like that. So, every time we push, we seem to raise 10 grand quite quickly, which is phenomenal. And it's just down to the generosity of people,
Yeah.
individuals who want to help me fight. So, anybody watching this who has donated to me, thank you so much. Because when I found out what I had to raise, I didn't even imagine I would have even gotten to this point. So I could probably cry again just for the fact that I've hit nearly £33,000.
So amazing, isn't it? That feeling of
Phenomenal.
support.
Yeah,
Because
phenomenal.
that's how
That
I
was that
felt
was
when
what was so frightening.
yeah. When I stood in the election, I was expecting loads of grief,
Mhm.
but it didn't really happen. Like, I just got so much support and it was like overwhelming.
I think it just goes to show you that it is literally just a very small, very noisy minority that have managed to get themselves into all of the little nooks and crannies of our civil service and all these other areas and into our government and basically manipulate things the way manipulators do. But if you actually stand and you speak to your average Joe on the street, 9 times out of 10, they're of our point of view. Live as you want to live,
Yeah,
do what you want to do, but please stop trampling on other people's rights while you're doing it.
absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know?
I'm always having little conversations with people and I haven't come across anybody yet who's went, "What? That's wrong."
Yeah.
Apart from when I stood in the election and, well, they didn't actually tell us I was wrong. They just took the objected to all sorts of other things instead. But do you
No,
know what I
because they're
mean? And
always
like,
cowards as well. They're not going to stand there and, they're not going to
uh,
stand there and argue with you because unfortunately they rely on a lot of circular reasoning around what they do.
yeah,
They go round and round in circles trying to justify. But when you actually have biology, reality, things that have been the same since the dawn of time,
I mean,
like
how did we get here where we're having to say men can't be women? Like,
I know. It's I think like I say, it's been a very this hasn't just happened. This has been on the cards and they've been planning it for a really long time. They've spent a
yeah,
long time being very sneaky, changing things, sneakily doing stuff on the sly, while the vast majority of people don't realize what's going on. And the thing is, as well, if someone was to tell you, I remember when I started telling my mum about this, and she went, no, that's not happening. They wouldn't let that happen. And that's part of it as well, because some of it is just so disgusting and so unbelievable that people
I
don't
know.
want to believe it's happening. And then when they suddenly realize that it is, even when my
Hmm.
mum realized a lot of the stuff I was telling her was true, that now on all of it, I'd still tell her things and she'd go, no, that can't be right. And that's the thing, because some of it is just so profoundly evil that you can't wrap your head around the fact that it's being allowed to happen. But here we
It's
are.
horrible, isn't it? Yeah. So, how's your mum been through all of this? Because she's been a good support of you, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's been great. I mean, it's affected her as well because I've had to go away and do certain things. And like, I've had to go. I've been called to go on the news. I think, GB News. I think I was on Talk TV with Alex Phillips and Kevin O'Sullivan. Then I had to go on Julia Hartley Brewer. But both of them were when I was at work. So I had to take my computer into work and I'm sitting and we're doing everything and I'm having to run out the back to get ready to get the camera and everything all
Yeah.
set up for me to go live and speak to them for 10, 15 minutes. Then I'd go back out to work and then I'd have to go. So she's been great. There's probably been times when she's been ready to throttle me about it all, but she also understands why I'm doing it, and she backs me 100%. She's put
Absolutely.
money into my crowdfunder a few times, which is good of her. And she's proud. She's
Well,
proud
yeah,
as
you're
well.
standing up for all women and all lesbians, aren't you?
I think one of the proudest things she turned around and said is obviously when my story came out, she goes to a church. She goes to church every Sunday. And the pastor of her church stopped her at the end of the day. And he just turned around. He said, Avril, tell your daughter to keep on going. She's doing God's work. Tell her to keep fighting. And my mum
Oh,
was
that's
so
amazing.
proud. Yeah, she was so proud. She come in the next day and she said, my pastor, my pastor. And I was like, oh, bless you. Bless you, man. Bless you.
Oh, so there's
Yeah.
lots of good that's come out of this as well, really,
Yeah.
because you've met. Well,
Oh,
I don't know about. I
phenomenal
can't speak
people.
for you, but I've met so many amazing women like
Yeah.
you through this.
Well, I've met you as well, Kelly. We're very, very, we're wonderful friends now. So you get, and you know where to get the best Victoria sponge in the Northeast, don't you?
I do.
So
It's my favourite, but I haven't had any for ages, so I'm gonna have
I
to
know,
crack the whip because
I
Ian
know.
hasn't got me any.
Well, I think, do you know what it is? He come in last weekend and got himself some.
Yeah, I was away.
You were away, weren't you? Because he couldn't. He said one, and I was like, "Is Kelly away again?" He went, "Yeah,
I've been away 2 weekends in a row.
yeah." Well,
I'm like, dirty
he
stuff
did.
out.
He come in and got himself some Victoria sponge last weekend. So just to make you jealous.
Well, Lindsay, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a long time
Always.
coming. 'Cause
I
you were going to come
know.
on right at the
Ages
beginning, weren't
ago.
you?
Yeah.
But stuff's happened. But yeah, it was really good. Thank you for coming on. It's been really enlightening hearing all your stories.
Well, we'll do it
So,
again because there'll be more and everything to come. Do you know what
oh
I
yeah,
mean?
you can come
So
back and give us an update.
yeah, when I know a bit more. I mean, because like I say, everything's been a bit slow recently, but it's because it's getting to that point. It's all the legal stuff, really. They do very well to keep me out of it all. But yeah,
Well,
I'll
you need to
definitely
be
come back.
involved though.
Oh, I know. But I'm also quite easy. I'm just like, sure, whatever. Yeah, fine, go for it. Happy to do this? Yeah, whatever. You're the professionals. I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on, and I'll end it there.
All right.